Welcome, ladies and gentlemen around the world. It's 5 a.m. over here in Australia, and we're here with Life Theories with my soul family. We've got Diana over in the US of A. We've got Sarah over in Canada. So
hello.
we're going to talk, and welcome to you, ladies. And obviously, I'm down under. So we're going to do our usual chat about life theories, and we've got our ideas that we've got for the rest of the week and all our stuff that we've been going through. How's everyone going today?
Pretty good.
Mercury Retrograde.
Yeah. I've been having this is like, usually the retrogrades don't affect me very much, but this time it's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, it's been a doozy, this one.
Yeah, it has. I think I think Diana put a great meme up the other week, last week, of two souls separated. It's like the old soul's trying to hang on, and we're all just moving this way. But I think conflicts with people as well has come up. I don't know if you guys have found it with actual, obviously communication's big with Mercury, always big with Mercury, and I think a lot of home truths as well. I'm being surrounded by a lot of coyotes at the moment. A lot of, I guess, opened up a lot of lines of communication and gave me a lot of sense of being, I guess, and just knowing exactly where I am now. So it's great.
Yeah, you're saying about like the tricksters and stuff. Like there's it's definitely a lot of people like showing true colors lately. Their true personalities that maybe were like hidden before are like really coming to light. You're starting to like see people for who they really are. Lots of weird little communication glitches are happening in my life too. It's been a fun one. Lots of tech issues happening. I've been spending a lot of time just like technically just shedding my old self and getting rid of a bunch of stuff in my life that I don't really need anymore, and just like making space in my life for newness, because I've been holding on to a lot of stuff for a really long time.
Diana, what do you think? You're sitting there contemplating, but you've been on fire.
What I'm noticing is, now, because I even put stuff on my regular Facebook, right, for people that aren't in my Trailblazers group, and there are certain people that are getting triggered because I think they have that old picture of me in their mind, like how I used to be. They saw me in my bad stage, but they saw me good too, and I think, they get triggered by when someone's doing better, especially if they're not in a good state, or just when I'm posting inspiring stuff, they're kind of like, who are you to talk, because, I'm finally opening up on myself more out there, and, and I'm even posting my YouTube channel in my bio, my profile, right? So I'm kind of just opening it wide open. I don't know if it's a little bit of an imposter syndrome, but part of me got a little triggered by that, because it's like, man, I was this person. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, I'm not saying I'm a perfectly healed person, but compared to who I was, like, I think some people are shocked that I've changed that. They're like, there's no way you were just doing this. When I saw you not too long ago, you were in this state, right? Or going through this, and now you're some spiritual guru or like some enlightened, or trying to motivate people, inspire people. I'm like, but they don't understand, these people are maybe going through certain struggles where I was at. They're stuck there, or they're just like struggling, right, with different things, and they don't want to heal and stuff, so they get triggered by that. At first, it did trigger me because it did kind of bring me back to the old me. I'm like, oh, you're right, who am I to say that imposter shit? But I was like, actually, because I've been through that and got better, I actually can help people because I've been there, but it did kind of, weird enough, and it's Mercury Retrograde, to some of the old stuff, but that's what happens. We're putting stuff out on YouTube. I mean, social media, I make Facebook, but, I want to expand just beyond my Trailblazers group. I want to post more stuff. Some people just get really Mercury Retrograde, right? Some people are just triggering the communication thing too, right? And it's also online, right? You don't know the tone of something, or someone's joking, I don't know. I guess we made a lot of changes, and it is a new version of me, and I'm still not 100% in the new version, right? I still have some old thoughts, so it's like, oh wait, who are you but yeah, so I'm just kind of working through that kind of stuff.
It's hard to hear from people from our past what they think about what you're doing now, especially when they're still in that same place and they're speaking to you from a place of like, they're not in their full alignment, so they're coming at you, and you might not be in your full alignment either, but you're definitely leaps and bounds ahead of where you were when you were in the same frequency as where they're at right now.
Yeah.
So, and it's just about, realizing that they can easily bring you back there, because it's super easy to be like, oh, I was that person. But just trying to stay in your frequency and know that you came from there, but now you've risen above, and to not really take what they're saying as seriously, because they're still coming at you from a place of hurt. It hurts extra. Yeah. Like it hurts extra because it's like you feel like they actually know you a little more, and because they know a version of you that existed longer than this version exists now.
Yeah.
It feels too fresh, right? Like it feels like, well, maybe I'm not this person and maybe I can't be. So it's just about like keeping your thoughts in order and keeping your thoughts on the positive, and making sure that you don't let their comments and that frequency suck you back down, and to rise above it and keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is really good. And you might not be an enlightened spiritual guru or some speaker that's booking 10,000 seats.
I
mean?
don't claim to be
and I know that you don't, you know what I mean? But those people that are going to go and call you some fake guru, you know what I mean? Like, of course they're going to be out there, but
they don't get it though.
They don't understand. And it's not like you're trying to be a guru. You're just trying to be better than you were the day before. And you're doing a pretty damn good job of it, in my opinion. Well, the retrograde too, it has a way of putting things in our face that we need to deal with once and for all.
Well, obviously, if it still triggers me, then it's within my energy. Obviously, there's something I need.
Exactly.
Because look, if I was really past that, I wouldn't even give a shit, But the fact that it did bother me, as long as it did, it was just kind of like a thing like poking at me. I'm like, all right, man, whatever, dude. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm cool. I'm not like sitting there crying about it, but it did kind of like irk me a little bit.
That's a perfect way you put it. Like the Mercury Retrograde puts things into your face. Like I know personally, me dealing with people, because like I've got certain standards. I think I'm getting certain standards, but also a bit of support and stuff. New job, I haven't got the support that I thought I would have. I've sort of learned everything on the fly, and it's very flippant in one way. A lot of mistakes have been made by a lot of people, especially myself, because we don't know the systems.
Yeah.
And I've got my own system the way I do things. Then when you hear, am I doing the system that they want, all that, but then all the egos come in. So that's where the coyotes come in. I'm just sort of going, I feel like the lone wolf. I really do. I really feel I've gone and done that, which is good. But, and then you have to accept, number one, you've got a choice on how you do it, on how you think about it. Okay. And it's not a case of, for me, it's not a case, and for anyone, it's not a case of, that's the way it is. You should just drop it and choose not to listen to yourself, listen to it, embrace it, and then it feels like absolute crap. Let's be honest, but we've just got to do what we've got to do, because there's definitely a lesson down the track that'll make us even better.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question for you. It sparked up loud and clear as you were talking when you said you've got really high standards for specific things. Do your boundaries match your standards?
Do my boundaries?
Yeah. Do they coincide with your standards? Because some people have really, 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 really high standards, but their boundaries are low. So when you don't have strong boundaries, but you have really high standards, you can get really caught up in what's going on and like, why are all these things happening to me? And like, you can get really, really caught up in quite damaging cycles if you've got high standards, but your boundaries are those of someone who has lower standards. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So
like it can cause you a lot of anxiety because your standards are, this is what I want. But your boundaries are so low that you're like, well, what's happening? Because like your boundaries don't allow your standards to be met because you keep letting them slide because they're not aligned with each other. And that that can sometimes cause a lot of like anxiety. It can cause a lot of
yeah.
It can cause inconsistencies in your life.
Okay, I'll answer that one for you. I think I do have high standards for myself, and I've got boundaries and set standards for myself. I guess I expect people, and this is where the problem is, you can't expect people to be at your standard. You can't, because people are all differently, and this is where I've learned very, very quickly, because that's when you get extra disappointed.
Yeah, but if you have strong boundaries, that should
stop that.
It should stop that, yeah, because you don't tolerate what the shit people are doing.
Well, that's what
you don't stand for.
Yeah, that's what I do now. But it's a case of, that's fine. And when you're in a situation, and this is not an excuse at all, but you could basically, it's like flogging a dead horse. You can have these standards, and then it gets to a point of, will you rely on the person to have that standard that you want, or do you just do it yourself? I've got to a point where I just do it myself, and then you've only got yourself to blame in some ways. And this is the case of, look, you're at work, you've got no choice but to work with these people. It's as simple as that. Wherever you're working, you work. But say with what Diana said, we can have standards in our own work, in our own outside of our workplace, because workplace, you got to do what you got to do, right? And then you don't drop your standards, but you got to sort of work within the team, and that's fine. But you don't sit there and roll over and take whatever you take, right? You still got to stick to your standard. But there has to be a bit of compromise in some ways. But then you always protect yourself. But then what you say is perfect outside of that. So where's my standards and where are my boundaries? I think you're exactly right. That's what Mercury Retrograde is teaching me. So Mother Earth comes again. I think that's fantastic. What you just said, I think you just summed up Mercury Retrograde. Are you taking, you've got your standard, and then they've got their standards, and do that, and you can see it also teaches you a bit of respect. Do they have respect for you? You really.
Well, if you have really high standards and you set boundaries that help those standards come into play, like, I don't tolerate this because my standard is really high performance. So I don't tolerate laziness.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's my boundary. If you're going to be lazy, you're off my team. That's my boundary. And if my standard's really high, I want a really high performance team, but I'm not going to set a boundary and tell the lazy people that there's no room for you here because the standards of my team are high. So you have a high standard of, we're a high performance team, but 3 of our main team members are really lazy and they don't pull their weight and they don't do the job to the full capacity, but you're not making the boundary clear to be like, guys, this is the standard and you're not meeting that. So if your standard is high, but the people the people around you aren't performing, but your boundary is, that's okay. They're good people and they're just part of the team. So your standard is, I need a really high performance team, but my boundary is, it's okay if they want to slack off a bit. And I'm not going to say anything if they're going to slack off. Because I have no boundary around that. You have to, my standards are really high. This is the way I want the team to work. This is the way I want the team to be. And you see there's people over here that aren't meeting the standard. You have to set a boundary with them that matches the standard. So if your boundary is, it's okay if I'm not gonna say anything because I have no boundary about voicing when people get lazy. Of course, the standard of your team is going to diminish from your high to something lower because your boundaries and your standards don't match. So, So if for the retrograde, if a lot of this stuff is coming up, that just means you have to up your boundary game, because if your standards are really high and you're the type of person that creates high standards, you need to make sure your boundaries match that. And you don't let people cross the boundaries that you have to set to meet those standards. And I think for you, because you mentioned your standards are really quite high, and you've mentioned this a few times, this is something really big for you, is just I think the universe and the retrograde is putting in your face, make sure your boundaries match your standards. And if they don't, it's time to lower some of those standards until you can work yourself up. Because sometimes, and like what this coach says is, if you have a really, really, really high standard, but your boundaries are so below that, instead of just trying to force everything up to the top, bring your standards lower and work it in a ladder. And when you're like, oh shit, now my boundaries are above my standards, and I've got to create new standards, and you have to keep making yourself climb up the ladder instead of just trying to force yourself to meet that super high standard. Sometimes it's hard to make that jump.
The hardest thing is when you're working with somewhere where the standards were high. We set the bar. Exactly what you said. We set the bar, and even in our personal lives, I can tell you right now, all of us have got these high standards, and we don't allow anyone to be there. I can tell you right now. But when you're working in, say, at a workplace, you're right. You have to lower your standards, which is basically an ego. And check your ego at the door and drop them. You got to keep the respect for yourself as well.
But it's about getting everybody on the same page and getting everybody into that alignment of, hey guys, this is the standard we have to be at. What do we need to be? What boundaries do we need to set as a group to get ourselves there? Rather than trying to lower the standard of the business that we're working for, because you can't do that as a group of employees. It's not your call to do that. That's the standard of the business. And if you're not all working together as a team to meet that standard, it's going to falter, right?
The other thing that kind of came to me is sometimes I think standards can be confused with sometimes wanting to control things. I think there's kind of like a fine line between that too. Say many times, I like to control the situation, I like to be in control, and so that also plays in everything. So is it really your standards? Is that really your standards, or is that just you want to control the situation? I don't know, it could go maybe a little bit both.
Yeah.
It could go both ways for sure. Yeah. I think, I guess where the ego comes in is, you can do a job, but then you've got to take your ego out of it, which is the control, which I know I have. And they've got their standard. The people got standards here. So you sort of drop that thing, but you've got to work out, as Sarah said, you've got to work out I'll use the word manipulate, but we know it's not manipulate. How to encourage them to get their standards up.
Yeah.
That's the word, encouragement.
Well, another way to look at it is, like, look, we all like things done the way we want to. I mean, we have a certain system for doing things, especially at work, right? And I've experienced this too. I've had millions of jobs. Okay, yeah, there are standards and stuff, but sometimes just because their way or speed of doing something or method of doing something isn't yours doesn't mean it's like not a high standard. I mean, sometimes it is. You notice, like, you're frustrated. Why can't this person think of this? But maybe their way is effective for them. That's how and maybe they'll still get to that standard through their method, but you're too busy trying to be like, oh, it needs to be done this way. But either way, you still got to meet the goal, right? So you have to figure out a way how to work constructively and without putting too much emotion into it for more of a neutral spot. It's it can be tough, and there's a lot of crazy personalities, man.
Check your ego at the door, really. You just got to sort of work with what we've got.
Everyone has ego, but an ego is also needed, It's also needed.
What I mean is check your ego at the door. Get control. But
just balancing it, man. Your ego isn't always needed all the time. Yeah, that's right. It's needed to get goals done, to push, to drive you sometimes. But I think there's also a time you got to step back.
But this is where Mercury Retrograde comes in, I guess. It's just, it shakes you up a fair bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's there to help shake you up so that you can see. It literally puts in your face everything you need to work on. And absolutely. You can either take that and fall apart from it and be like, this is too overwhelming. Why can't I communicate? Why is technology not working? Why can't I figure out these boundaries? All of the different things that can hit you from a retrograde can make a person fall apart, or they can make someone have grand realizations and be like, oh, thank you, universe, for putting in my face what it is that I need to work on this month. What is the last thing that I need to do, or what is the next thing that I need to do to better myself? And what is the next thing I need to look at to get myself to a better position so that I can raise my standards and I can set new boundaries and I can do all of these things to put myself in a better position. So it's all in the mindset that you go at it with. Some people I know are like, oh, retrograde, I'm not leaving my house. I'm just going to lay in bed and cry. And they don't really do any of the work. They literally just lay in bed and cry. And then the next retrograde happens and it happens again. And it keeps getting thrown in their face again. And why does this keep happening? It's because you're not actually doing the work that the universe is like literally putting in your face, being like, work on this right now. It's actually helping you out. But some people get so scared by it because they're not ready to confront what's being put in their face. Not to get too overwhelmed by it, because I know it's part of being a human being on this planet. The universe is here to teach our souls different things about life, different aspects of being a human on this planet in this meat suit. And it's, instead of being afraid of it, it's like, we're here, we're in this mission, we're along for this ride. We should embrace it. And if the universe is doing things like helping us by literally putting our problems right in our face so we can look at them and deal with them and move on from them, we should be grateful from that instead of running and hiding from it and acting as if it's something to be afraid of. Because that's part of the life mission, right? Is figuring out what it is to be human. And if the universe is like, part of being human is dealing with these issues, here's things that your soul in particular needs to deal with. I'm going to put it in your face. How are you going to do it? How are you going to live your life? How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to take that from the universe? Are you going to take it and grow? Are you going to hide under the sheets in bed and keep repeating the same cycles?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's up to you.
What do you think, Diana? You're sitting there contemplating. I think I still like the control thing. I really do. I totally get it.
Well,
I totally, depending where you're at.
This is kind of related to that a little bit. This is something to think about with the standard and the boundaries. So, like, I know I was just in a relationship or whatever with someone for all, right? So I understand why I might feel this way. But now I feel like I'm at the point where, like, my standards and my boundaries are both so high with, like, even if I want to meet a new guy or whatever, because I'm so, like, I have such a big checklist now because of all my experiences and stuff, and I'm so, because I'm like, I don't want to waste my time, waste my energy, but no one's going to be perfect, and I'm not even perfect myself, but now that list has grown so long, and I'm so, like, it's almost too high that I think I'm going to be alone for a very long time, which is fine, but I have to realize I'm not a perfect person either, but, like, I've just now, because I finally brought my boundaries up, since both of them were kind of low before, right? And so now I brought them so high up, and I'm not willing to let it down. And if I see any kind of red flag of any, I don't know, even, there's no one I even consider, because I'm just not, I'm just really focused on myself and getting better, and I've let guys, like, you know, I've let a lot bring me down a lot, right? So I'm so, like, but that kind of comes from a place of, like, my ego being hurt, right? And then it makes me not want to step into, like, feminine energy either. It makes me want to be more tough, and I don't know how to let that go and let that down and have such that high, like, I feel like I can meet someone right now that's a perfect person for me. I'm like, oh, I want him to be spiritual, I want him to be emotionally available, I want him to be this, oh, but I have his shit together, oh, and also this and this and this, and I have all these things. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm perfect, but, like, I don't know how to let this shit go. Like, I'm so high on this stuff, like, I'm not putting up with any bullshit anymore. I've just been so, like, brought myself down so much over somebody else. I'm just very cautious of who I let in, but I feel like I'm going to also shut a lot of people out that way too that could be decent people. I don't know, I'm in a weird stage with that, and I'm just not even interested in, I don't know.
Work on yourself.
And that's so different for me. You understand, I used to always have to be with somebody all the time. There had to be someone I was talking to, whatever, and, like, now it's like, I don't give a shit, I'm good on my own, you know, I don't need, like, I don't care, all these guys message me, I don't care, I don't even want it. Like, I'd be going on dating websites. It's just so crazy how I changed so much. But now I don't know how to let that shit down. I feel like I'm not going to let anyone in for a long time. But I'm also still kind of grieving the last person I was with him for a while. You know, that was like 6 years of my life off and on. So I don't know, man. I don't know how to, like, let the wall down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you've done, look, I'll butt in there. I reckon you've done a great job, because you're actually breaking a pattern as far as I'm concerned.
I'm extreme, though. I'm one side or the other with everything. Everything
it doesn't matter.
I'm extreme. I have no there's no in between. I'm like, either I'm all in or all out. Like, that's it.
No, it doesn't matter, but that's what I'm saying. You're breaking that pattern. So you, instead of going left, you're going right. And
it's
you're
better
not
than I
back.
was before. It's better than doing all
exactly
all the bullshit and letting it bring me down and going through an addiction and, like, letting it like
but you're
kill me.
At least you're honest. At least you're honest with yourself, and you're saying to yourself, "Yeah, you've just been honest to us that where you're at." And you know, you break patterns, and it's a good thing when you look at it. You go, you can either go left or right, and that's the old me. How I would go. I'm going to do this, even if it's absolute extreme. It still takes me out of that old pattern, and then I can sort of bring myself back. It'll happen because at least you're aware of it.
But I guess it's just a process, right? There's no rush for anything, but this is so foreign to me that I'm almost like weirded out by it because I went so the opposite way of the way I've been. So I'm like, I don't need to. I just like identity crisis, man. It's like,
at least you're honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, at least no one can say anything. At least you're honest. Like I know people who have been blatantly honest and where they are in life. And look, there's a lot of people who are. I know a few friends of mine who have had either, I guess, we'll put it into a case of the perfect feeling, not the perfect relationship, perfect feeling that they want to have.
Yeah,
and
I think that's.
And they want that feeling, and that was a great feeling, and they lost it, but they won't. They've got a standard of that feeling, but they've said, okay, I won't. If I don't get that feeling, or I'm scared to go to that, I'm scared to find that feeling, I'll go that way and just say, no, I won't have anything. You know, I don't want a little bit. I want that or nothing.
Make your standards so high so nobody can meet it and you don't get hurt.
I think it's more of that. Like, it's good to have nothing wrong with my standards, but like I'm at the point like any kind of little thing will throw me off for a guy. I have this huge checklist now, and I'm like, I'm not putting up with this bullshit. I don't know, but there has to be some kind of balance to it. I don't know.
Well, here's something you can use that has helped me out a lot when, okay, it's like, well, this is what I want. I want like $1 million, let's say. And it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty big number. Like that's like a really high standard of like how much I want in my bank account, right? And the amount of like work and like almost like it feels like pressure because you want that thing that's so high and almost unattainable, right? And it feels like, well, now I'm feeling like, well, is that even possible for me to get? Because I've set my standards so high, I've set it so high that it's like, it almost makes me feel low. So rather than saying I want $1 million, you can say I want $10,000 or something better. You know what I mean? So you're not setting yourself high, but you're not closing like too high that it's unattainable, but you're not closing yourself off. You're putting out a boundary and a standard that's like, this is really good. This is like the minimum of what I want, right? Like it's still really good, but it's not as frightening as $1 million, but it would still be really good. So say you have like a standard in like your relationships or like you're trying to pick a partner and you want someone who's spiritual or is spiritual or not at all. What you could say is, I want someone who's open-minded or something better. Open-minded to spirituality, willing to grow into spirituality or something better. That way you're not pigeonholing yourself and you're not forcing the universe and your manifestations into, I only want this. It's you're giving yourself room to breathe. You're giving your manifestations room to provide you something that maybe you didn't even think of that's way better than that high standard that you had for yourself. Maybe if your standard is, I want $1 million, I want $1 million, but the universe is like, I got 10 million for you over here, but all you want is that million. And you're pushing towards that million, that you're ignoring what the universe has for you over there. So if you say, I want this or something better, you open the door to other possibilities that are better than what you could have imagined. You're trying to bring stuff into your life rather than saying, I need this, I need this, I need this, and focusing hypervigilantly on the one thing of like, or if you're, say, you want a dream partner and you've got it in your head that this one particular person is your knight in shining armor, and you're like, I only want this one person, I only want this one person. But there's like 3 other dudes out there that are actually better for you than that guy that you're fixating on. But you closed off. You could say, I want someone like this or better. I want someone that fits these standards or better. And rather than putting yourself at the absolute highest, pick what you're comfortable with. Not something you'd settle for, obviously, but like You know what I mean? Like something that's above your lowest expectation, obviously, like something that's really good for you, that has room for improvement above it, and say, I want this or something better. So with every standard that you're setting with your relationships and finding a partner, you could say, I'm looking for someone who has this or something better. I'm looking for someone who's, ideally I'd want someone who's fully spiritual. That might be closing yourself off. Maybe what your path is to grow with somebody in your spirituality. Yeah, I'm looking for someone who's open-minded to spirituality or something better. So you're not closing yourself off of, I only want people who are spiritual now. Like you said, you have room to improve. Why do you need to be with someone who's that ultimate knight in shining armor when you're not even there yet? Maybe your journey is to grow with that love.
Yeah, true.
But you're pigeonholing yourself away from it by not allowing yourself to something better. You know what I mean?
You got to look at the human emotion too. When you get bloody hurt, you don't want to go there. Let's be honest. I don't give a shit what anyone says. You don't want to go there again. You're bloody sick of it. I mean, and then you do go out there and try something, but it doesn't work. But then, you don't want to get hurt again. I mean, it's great, the great feeling, the big high. It's all fantastic. But then, where are you at? And then basically, you don't want that bloody hurt again. You've been through too much. But I think Diana's doing a good job. I think this sounds like a bloody counselling session for me and Diana. Actually, we're changing this from life theories to counselling with Sarah. So with Mother Earth Sarah, if you'd like to come on, you can quite happily come on, and we can talk about your problems. And Mother Earth will come and help you.
It's all good. Everybody, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for another episode of Life Theories. Join us again next week and check out Diana at Trailblazers of the Universe on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I think are you on TikTok now too?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I don't go as much, but I'm still on TikTok, yeah.
And we got Jay down in the bottom, for me anyway, he's in the bottom at Journey of a White Feather. For you, you're probably in the top. I don't know, we're always shuffling around.
That's all right. We're good.
But check him out, Journey of a White Feather on YouTube, yeah? And
YouTube, Facebook.
WWHealth, 2007 or 4? 2004. WWHealth 2004 on Instagram. And myself, Small Sarah Big Soul, can be found on Instagram and TikTok. So check us out. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, send us some questions in the comments if you would like to chat with us some more about any theories you have about this crazy thing called life. Or, if you have any topics you'd like us to touch on, or if you have any questions about what we've mentioned today, we love to hear from you. So leave us a comment, and don't forget to hit that little bell next to the subscribe so you know when we post more videos. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.